Hey, Jeff from Become More Compelling here. Today, we're going to do a question. So, this question is, do I have to step out of my comfort zone to be more interesting? Honestly, I feel like most people in society are just boring and average. I know that sounds rude. Yeah, okay. Uh, but that's how I see it. I don't want to end up being like that again. It seems like I have to do things that I really don't want to do just to make people care about me or think I'm interesting. Do I need to push myself out of my comfort zone to become a more intriguing person? So I, I literally just picked this question. We're just going to go off the cuff and see kind of what comes out. So, a couple things that I'll call out here. Most good things happen outside your comfort zone, right? If uh if we if we stayed within our comfort zone, probably, I don't know, 80% of us, 90% of us would probably just be on the couch watching Netflix, right? Very safe, very small. And basically zero risk unless I don't know, there's a tornado or a fire or something like that, right? So uh, the stuff that helps you grow could be uh, meeting someone and having a connection, starting a relationship, could be uh, moving for a job, could just be, you know, getting a more interesting job, could be branching out in your city and finding uh, new opportunities to, find your tribe or the people that really kind of jive with what you're interested in. All that stuff involves a little bit of risk, right? Like you literally have to go like you literally have to go out and drive there and there's traffic. Okay, yes, that's one kind of risk. Another kind of risk is probably the somewhat of the risk this person could be talking about. We can't read their mind, but the risk of social rejection. Like, hey, what if I, go to a meetup and, I have a bunch of awkward conversations and I end up not meeting anyone, or I have conversations and I don't seem very interesting. So all that's fair, and it's fair to have those concerns, uh, but I think some things that this person should keep in mind. One is, and I actually picked this up from a reader of mine that I was on a call with. I thought it was a great mindset. It was and we were talking about going to new places and trying new things. And what this reader said was something along the lines of, "I'll go once just to see if I like it." And I was like, "Man, that is perfect. Like that's really really good." Where it might be tempting, if you find a group or a meetup or a class or something like that, you might immediately start trying to talk yourself out of it and think, oh, I bet the people there are rude or, or, I bet they all have their own little cliques or whatever it happens to be. That's not a helpful mindset. A much more helpful mindset, or you could even be thinking one more thing is to, uh, you might be thinking about it and think like, oh, well, this isn't exactly what I'm interested in. I'm more interested in this other thing. The Again, all that stuff not very helpful. Much more helpful mindset is that of, hey, I'll just go once to see if I like it. Because the reality is you don't know. You really don't have any clue. Uh, so going and trying something new uh, is a way to get out of your comfort zone. And I think another issue or another problem that people can have when they start thinking about this is something that I'll walk my clients through and talk to them about, which is it can be tempting to fall into like an all or nothing mindset where you think, oh, I have to rearrange my entire schedule and go to five new places a week, and it's going to be a full-time job to uh, look up these classes or events, and I'm gonna have to go to them and all that stuff. Well, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. That is thinking in terms of there's so much effort that's going to be involved in this. And the reality is you can achieve the same, um you can achieve a more manageable energy investment, right? If it's instead of thinking, oh, I have to go somewhere 5 days a week, like, no, of course not. Uh, I'll try to find 2 things a month. Could be something as simple as that, or if you're super busy, 1 thing a month that's a new thing, and then slowly ramp up over time. Uh, there's a concept I talk to my clients about called I'm calling it the effort gravity principle, and uh, what it is it is think about any new thing that you're doing. In the beginning, that effort level is going to be super high because you've never done that thing before. You're online looking up meetups in your city and trying to decide, like, oh, well, is this one even active? Is this feasible? Driving distance and part of town it's in, parking. Like, there's so much effort, cognitive effort that's involved in that effort might seem really high. Um, but you go for a few times and you end up liking it. You end up meeting a couple people that seem pretty cool, that are also regulars. Then, like, the fifth time or the seventh time that you go, that effort is so much lower because uh you're not having to burn all those. Here's I'm not an expert on science, but you're not having to burn all those brain calories, which probably isn't even a thing unless you're a cannibal or a zombie. Uh, you're not having to use as much RAM there. That's a better example. That's more in my wheelhouse. So you're not having to use nearly as much RAM because that effort is so much lower. You already know where to park. You already know what time the class meets, and you already know the lay of the land inside. And that way it becomes really, really comfortable. But it takes time, and it takes pushing that comfort zone to get out and experience that. Um, and what I also tell people is when they're thinking about, staying on the meetup thing, or groups or whatever it is, there are some that you're going to go to, you're not going to go back. That's okay. That's fine. That's life. Um, but the goal, ultimately, if you want to have more experiences, and like this person's question asks, if you want to be more interesting, you have to have experiences. And so that means that you have to say yes to uh, invites that come your way. You have to say yes to opportunities uh, to get out of your normal routine. And over time, once you start doing that regularly, picture it's 2 or 3 months down the road, and you've gone to 10 plus events, uh, that every time you go to a different event than one of the other 10, then you can bring up times where you say, oh, I was at this escape room, or I was at this uh, you know Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, or I was at this mini golf thing. Then suddenly, okay, that's more interesting because you're not just saying, oh, I watched this new show on Netflix or whatever it is. Uh, don't get me wrong, love Netflix, but having those experiences and being able to talk about those experiences too is really important. And so, something that I talk to my clients about is um, the the concept of, I call them rich responses. And so, being able to, like, if someone asks you about your weekend, like, did you do anything interesting? Um, could have been something as simple as, like, hey, I went to this new sushi restaurant and had this awesome roll. Like, great, okay. Be sure to, like, be specific and mention that so that the other person has something to grab onto. Um, and that helps with that whole process. And so, do you have to be the most interesting person in the world? No. Do you have to shake up your routine and get out of your comfort zone a little bit to have new experiences, to have new things to talk about? Yeah, that would be a really good idea. It doesn't mean that you have to go out 5 nights a week and burn yourself out. No one's saying that. But adding in a few places that you go, hopefully that you end up liking, that you see the same group of people at, having one or two of those kind of situations in your life, that's how you end up meeting people and forming relationships is repeated exposure to those same people over time. I think that there's a study that I'm thinking of where to gain a new friend, it was something like 30 to 50 hours for I may have even been a close friend uh, that you have to accrue that time with someone. And so it's a process. It takes time, but branching out, finding new things to do that are interesting that you end up enjoying, then that gives you a lot of fodder for talking to people about things that are going on in your life using rich responses to make it easy for the other person to respond to what you're mentioning. Being sure to pepper in a couple of rich details when people ask you about your weekend or what you have coming up. That's how you get to a place where you're automatically interesting. If you like this, when you're out at those events, you'll probably need to have the skills to be able to join and enjoy group conversations. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a audio training that I have on just that. If you've ever wanted to stop fading into the background in group conversations and start enjoying them more, I've got the perfect thing for you. I've got a free audio training on joining and enjoying group conversations that's available for you to go and grab right now. Go to becomemorecompelling.com/group. So what's in this training? You're going to learn how to systematically destroy the fear of approaching new people. You're going to learn how to always be accepted into a new group without accidentally killing the vibe. You're going to learn that you don't have to carry the whole conversation and that there's a better way to go about it. You're going to learn how to jump into a conversation that seemingly has no opening. There's even word for word scripts to get you started really quickly. Join over 5,000 people that have enjoyed this free audio training on group conversations. Go to becomemorecompelling.com/group to get your free audio training.